The Hangar Z Podcast welcomes Todd Jager, retired chief pilot from the San Diego Police Department.
There was a line that Kevin used to use a lot, and it stuck with me for a long time because it's 100% true. And I think about it frequently when people talk about, oh, this was lucky, or this was, you were lucky with this, or you were lucky with that. But Kevin would always say that chance favors the prepared mind. And the fact of the matter is, not if you were given that opportunity, but you weren't prepared for it in one form or another, then it would have been squandered on you. So in my life, I think of many things. What I've been lucky at is I've been lucky at never being horribly unlucky. That's a big deal, guys. That's a big deal. But the hands that I've been dealt, even the ones like, yeah, it's kind of a crappy little hand, but like, yeah, but I've been practicing this hand for a while. I think I can do this. And so for me, I've been dealt awesome hands, and I played those cards through practice and preparation.
Welcome back to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS and partnered with Vertical Valor Plus. In this episode, we are honored to welcome a true aviator and one of the innovators of law enforcement aviation FLIR tactics. Todd Jager is a retired chief pilot of the San Diego Police Department. He has incredible knowledge and experience in all aspects of training, safety, and tactics in the law enforcement aviation world. Todd, along with his longtime partner Kevin Means, developed tactics and techniques with the FLIR that evolved into common practices today. He was also the TFO over the renowned San Diego tank chase. This is an incredible conversation you will not want to miss a minute of. Thank you to our sponsors, CNC Technologies, Metro Aviation, and MD Helicopters.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS. The Hangar Z Podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like you're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, through the shotgun, through something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
I'll never forget that my entire life. I'll never forget how, he was not even a pilot in our unit at the time. And I say that not even, he, as a TFO in our unit, had the wherewithal to put that together and realize that I needed just coaching, call it whatever you want. He understood that it was time to say something. And I don't think it was because I was scaring the hell out of him either. I think it's just he understood the situation and he knew what I was trying to do, and he just wanted to make sure that I had a good perspective on it. That is priceless.
It is
priceless.
And probably I would just emphasize the fact that he was comfortable saying it.
Absolutely.
Not only did he say it,
right.
I mean, he thought it. That's a great thing to have a TFO that's sitting there thinking about this stuff. But he had the courage and comfortable relationship with the pilot to say, it's my duty to say this.
Well, I'll tell you something.
And I can tell Todd, and he's not going to say, shut up, Jaffo.
Absolutely.
Right?
One of the things that Blair and I used to do a lot, and it's kind of interesting, and I honestly just now remembered this. Blair and I would go out a lot because, I mean, the city of San Diego border goes all the way to the fence with Mexico. And there's a lot of super rugged area out there, especially back in the day. There was even more. Now there's a lot of houses and so on out there. But we would go out and we had night vision goggles. We had FLIR that had, no, that's not true. That's not true. I'm thinking back. I was going to say we had a FLIR 8500 that had a laser pointer on it, but we didn't. So, but anyhow, what we would do is we would go down, hey man, I can't buy a call right now. Let's head down towards, and we did a lot of this near Otay Mountain and Mount San Miguel. And I would say to him, I'd say, okay, you find the crash site and then we'll work through this together. And then the goal was that every single time we made it a airplane crash, because that just seemed to make the most amount of sense. Look around out here. You're not a pilot. And I don't want you to work hard to find something easy. Just find something. And then you're going to find that on the FLIR. And I'm going to look over and I'm not going to watch. All of a sudden you're going to say, okay, I've got it. Don't put it right where it would be totally natural for me. Make me go find it. And I'm going to find it on the NVGs old FLIR 2000, he doesn't have the ability to let that go. And so he's going to stick with it. I'm going to find it. I'm going to set up a safe orbit around it. I'm going to find it on the with the night sun. We're going to agree that that's the location. And then the next goal is now we're going to practice off-airport landing. We're going to make an off-airport landing at the nearest location where we think if that really was the scene and we were going to fly in some first responders, how do we want them to get into this scene? We're probably going to deliver them uphill from this so they can at least make their way downhill easier. And then if we need to recover them later on, if we need to, we can go find an LZ downstream from them, so they're not carting the poor person back and forth. But we did that dozens of times. And that was, he's learning the FLIR. He's learning crew resource management. I'm learning what makes him tick. I'm perfecting my ability to look at this pretty crappy FLIR, use my old pretty crappy night vision goggles to find what he's looking at without the use of a laser pointer going, well, there's that big set of rocks right there. And that's just down from this little split in this ravine. Yeah, that's going to be it right there. And then, literally, I would bring the night sun on, pinpoint it right there, and he would switch to color camera. And if we did it perfectly, the scene's lit up. If not, I screwed it up, or we screwed it up. Yeah. So we did that a lot. So when we got out there for the real deal, did we know we were ever going to face the real deal like that? Honestly,
on Otay Mountain?
On Otay Mountain. So we went out and we did this. And in a lot of ways, there were times during that operation that we didn't need to do an immense amount of talking. We trusted each other and we knew how we were going to move into this. I'm not saying we were doing this, Blue Angel style or something. I'm just saying we were comfortable together because we worked at it so much. Listen, we could have spent those hours that we weren't working a call just droning back and forth in Class B, being happy, just waiting for something to happen, or looking at our watch thinking, man, what did you bring for dinner tonight? But we didn't. We were out doing things. That's what Kevin and I did. That's what Blair and I did. That's what I did with my other friends that, I worked with, and I knew were ambitious towards being the best that they could be. That's how we went out and became the best that we could be together as a team.
Fantastic. That is a great segment right there because, everybody to this day, it doesn't matter what technology is on board, should be doing that, practicing that and doing scenarios and in your downtime. There should never be bored.
Right.
You should never be bored up there.
Well, once in a while you do. Once in a while you need a little. That's one thing about TFO training. Once in a while, as a regular flight crew, you just need to chill a little bit. When you're TFO trainings, for us, we had a pretty finite amount of time. I had to get you up to speed, and you're working hard, but at the same time, you're realizing I'm working this poor dude to death over here, or this lady has just had enough of me for a little while, and you just have to be able to. But they won't say that,
No.
And so you just have to be able to take their pulse and go, let's take a pill here for a minute. And just take a little chill. Yeah.
I had a couple pilots that would every once in a while do a training flight. We'd fly to Santa Monica and then fly that LAX transition south under the LAX departure down to Torrance, or go around the golf course down there and come back across through Long Beach. As a TFO, under a lot of stress, those flights were gold. Because, like you said, could reset mentally, give you a break. You're paying attention to other things, but the level of attention that it required for me as a TFO was a lot less. So it was a nice welcome break during those early years. So yeah, good of you to say that, and important for trainers, whether you're a pilot or a TFO trainer in the back seat, to recognize that in your TFOs and
absolutely
act accordingly.
There are definitely going to be times when you're training a TFO or a pilot for that matter, and you're thinking to yourself, he should be able to take a little more than this. I can see him; he's starting to squish. Then the jelly's coming out of the sandwich right here. But there are times like, well, we're keeping the pressure on right here. You need to see that this wasn't okay. You kind of came undone here. That's not okay. You've watched all kinds of tapes. You've seen how this should be done, and that didn't work well for you. So let's work through this together. Here's a few techniques. Here's a couple ways of taking a chill out there. I remember if it wasn't my first, it had to be one of my first 3 ever vehicle pursuits as a brand new Jet Ranger pilot. I was over by San Diego State, and it was really quick. It happened in seconds. But it was in a kind of a tricky spot because depending on where you were at in the orbit, you're flirting with this Class B airspace, and you're in Montgomery's airspace, and you're very close to Gillespie's airspace. So as a new pilot is, somewhat overwhelming. And I'm working with a very senior pilot who's being basically my mentor. And but he's calling this pursuit. He doesn't really have the opportunity to walk me through too much of this. This is the real deal. This isn't a training mission. And I remember to this day, my lower back went into a spasm that was because I had so much adrenaline. I can only imagine what my blood pressure was. I had so much adrenaline coursing through my system. As that new guy, you transition all the way through towards someplace, towards the end of my career, I would probably, oh my goodness, here we go. Here's another one. But when you're there at that moment and you're new at that, that's way overstimulating and could easily be more than what you could take in. I probably was looking through some tunnel vision. I have no idea what my power was at as I was yanking this poor 74-year-old Jet Ranger around in circles, But that's the case, and those are the types of things I hope that the vast majority of trainers would take with themselves. Hey, you do remember when that was you? Do you remember how you coped with it, or do you remember what you did that you wished you had done differently? Now let's help this guy not do the same thing, or how to do whatever you did better. And to me, that's what makes a great trainer. I don't care what you're training. You're a field training officer training a guy in a blue uniform.
Yeah.
That's golden stuff, and not everybody. You can have lots of trainers that have an enormous amount of experience doing the job. Does not mean that they're going to be a good trainer. Do you have the personality it takes to be humble and cool, to give somebody a smack on the butt when they need it? I used to tell people all this all the time. Hey, listen, when I think about air support training, whether it was pilots or TFOs, you need to be 50% trainer, 50% cheerleader every time we go out. These guys, if they're highly motivated guys, they're not going to do well with the idea that they screwed this up. And you need to pick them up, dust them off, tell them they're going to do just fine. It happens all the time. Don't sweat it. Move on. Let's go. Tomorrow's another day. And you do that all the time. All the time.
Great advice.
I think that the point you brought up, remembering where you were when you started, is important for people to think through, whether it's in the TFO seat or the pilot seat, because it's easy to be like, come on, man, you should know better, without realizing, hey, this guy's in his third week or she's in her third week. This is not abnormal, right? I think that relatability is key. I remember as a newer pilot coming back from a cross-country flight, I was mentally spent when we got back. I don't remember what it was about the flight, other than it was a long flight that wore me out. But I walked back into the hangar, go downstairs, and the supervisor's behind the desk, and he's like, "You look exhausted." I'm like, "I am beat." He's like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, kind of put me down for looking like that. And I felt horrible. I'm like, man, I must be an idiot or something because I'm exhausted. But he's saying I shouldn't be, and I am. I felt like crawling on my desk and going to sleep. So I think, to your point, it's important for us to remember and recognize where we came from and where these people are, and act accordingly. Jack, I know you must have had a ton of experiences with that as both a pilot trainer training TFOs, a check airman, and somebody training new pilots.
Yeah, it happened all the time, and I fortunately had some good mentors and some people that taught me where I said, that's what I want to be. And it was what Todd's talking about, knowing when to turn the pressure on somebody, knowing when to let off of it, knowing that, getting angry at them isn't going to help. It's only going to make them worse. And not all the trainers were like that. Some were yelling at people. It's like, you're an idiot for doing that. You're not going to get the best out of them ever. Right. But training a TFO was the most challenging job I ever had at air support. Training brand new TFOs. That's you're flying a helicopter and training a brand new TFO at the same time to a very complicated job. And I was thrown into that immediately upon becoming a pilot. I mean, I was brand new pilot, and they said, "Hey, we really want you to train TFOs because you just came out of the training TFO job as a chief TFO." And I'm like, "Okay, Wow. It was hard, really, really hard, but very rewarding at the same time. But everything Todd said, I agree with, because it's you have to walk that fine line. You need to put pressure on them because it's a high pressure job. So you can't just let them coast, but you got to read them too. And if they're at their limit, there's just no reason to tweak them one more notch.
Right.
So back off the gas a little bit and give them a break, or say, hey, let's talk about that in a different way. Let me tell you what I would say there, instead of saying, well, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard somebody say over a call, even though that's what you're thinking.
Right.
So it's important to have solid people as your TFO trainers. It's the best advice here. People that know how to instruct. They might not necessarily be the most experienced at anything,
Right.
but if they know how to instruct and they're competent and they know the job, that's the most important element of that.
Before we leave this topic, I just want to say, if you're somebody training a TFO, whether you're a pilot or a TFO, you're somehow involved in training TFOs, and you haven't read Mike Calhoun's book, Training Through Chaos, that's a must read. Talking about the importance of all the modalities of education and training and teaching. He brings all that stuff up. So if you're in that role, pick that book up, put it in your aviation library. It's a great read, and it's a great resource for training TFOs. So that's all
awesome.
my plug for that. But really important that we professionalize the instruction that goes along with TFOs.
Agreed. And it's a great book. Let's go back now to you and Kevin mainly, and there were others, but you and Kevin really putting an effort forward in changing how you were doing things. And one of those things is recording on tape, because it was tape.
It was tape.
Let's talk about recording incidents and the evolution of that with the two of you, your unit, your department, the resistance, if there was any, within the unit and the department, how that just all came about to the point where you were just taping everything, and now it's become commonplace, but at the time it was not.
Right.
Let's talk about recording and give us your spiel on that, Todd.
Well, in the early days, from the moment those FLIR 2000 FVs were installed in the aircraft, there was recording capability. It didn't always work perfectly, but it was always there. It was almost never, ever by anybody ever used. The only person that I can think back that used the recorder with any degree of regularity was Kevin.
Yeah.
And frankly, the reason, well, first off, you weren't required to use it. It was an optional thing. You weren't required to use the FLIR. That was an optional thing. Didn't matter if it was dark. Didn't matter what the circumstances were. Hey, man, if you think you can do it, you can do it. When I went through my night TFO training, it involved everything except the FLIR. They didn't even touch on it, not even for a minute. And they literally said to me, hey, listen, that is PFM, pure effing magic, and I don't know how to run it. It's not my thing. If you are interested in that down the road, you can talk to Kevin about it. It was that simple. They just left it at that.
Yeah.
It's impossible. I can't believe that was really even the case, right? And so what happened was, over time, a few decent high-profile incidents, whether they were pursuits or what have you, of course, the tank probably in those days took the cake for that. And it that ended up being on tape. And then at some point in time, you say post-incident, hey, by the way, we do have that on tape. You got to remember, this was before body-worn cameras. This is before everybody having a cell phone that had a recorder in their hand. So when you told some incident commander that, oh, by the way, we have that on tape, they're like, really? Like, yeah, really, we do. And they couldn't believe it. And it started to become, it was always a positive thing. And I know you might not believe me, but this is the truth. Ground officers were very nervous about having their every move recorded. They didn't have BWCs in those days, so the idea that the eye in the sky is recording your every move down on some incident, whether it was your patrol, whether it was your pursuit tactics, or what you did when you caught the guy at the end, everybody was worried that they were going to be caught on tape doing something that they shouldn't do. And I can tell you, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, this is 1,000% true. The only single person, to my knowledge, that ever got in trouble, the only San Diego police officer that ever got in trouble because of something that was recorded from the helicopter, was me.
Thank you to our sponsor, CNC Technologies. CNC Technologies, serving law enforcement, government, and military markets with tailored mission solutions, system training, and live 24/7 support with CNC.live platform. Explore more at cnctechnologies.com.
I got in trouble for real for some inter-cockpit language I used during a particularly stressful incident, and I was PO'd major league. And when I ripped off with what I ripped off with, Kevin pointed up to the record light like, dude, I'm recording. And I respond, I don't care if you're recording this. Yeah. And I was so mad. Yeah. I was so upset. Yeah. And that ended up being that ended up working its way into my annual eval. So there you go. Yeah, I was not happy about that either.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but it's true though. We recorded all these incidents, and everybody thought that, hey man, cops are going to get in trouble. They didn't get in trouble, and in fact, the exact opposite of this happened. Yeah. I saw on more than one occasion where some officer was accused of something, and whether it was immediately there on the spot, their supervisor calling up going, hey, Abel, were you working on that call over here, the north end of Monroe? Yeah, we were. Did you happen to get it on tape? Like, the one I'm thinking of in particular, we worked a call. It was pretty simple. It was no big deal. We directed a ground officer to prowler in an alley. The officer goes up, he contacts this prowler, and he takes him and puts him on the hood of the car, and frisks him, handcuffs him, and so on. He's a single officer unit, and ultimately we get a code 4 from him, so we fly away. We don't think anything of it. So we had recorded that, but of course we stopped the recording, and then we went about our business and went back and landed back at the base. And we were back there having lunch, and a patrol sergeant calls up and goes, hey, did you guys record that? And we're like, well, yeah, we did. We know we recorded it, but lots of times in the days of the VHF recorder, and we didn't have any particular guidance on this, we would like, oh, nothing good happened. So we would just hit the rewind button, go back and record over whatever we just did. And so Kevin tells the sergeant, hey, I know we recorded it. I'm just not sure we didn't record over it. So let me go find out. And so we're like, oh, by the way, what's going on? He goes, well, this 1016, this prisoner that says that when the officer pulled up, he ran into him with his car, knocked him down on the ground. And he goes, I don't see any sign of injury on this guy, but he's literally alleging that the officer 245'd him, assault with a deadly weapon, 245'd him in the alley. And we're like, well, we can tell you right now, Sarge, that didn't happen. Okay, but let's go get the tape. And sure enough, we went and got the tape, and obviously this guy's lying. That happened countless number of times. Okay, that morphed all the way. Now I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but that morphed its way into recording on incidents where, when it was found out during discovery, suspects arrested, they're in jail to say it was a pursuit. I'm making this up. I'm thinking of one particular pursuit in particular. And the suspect, they find out through discovery that this videotape exists. And the defense looks at this videotape, and on probably the rarest of all occasions, there was a suspect that went in and, through his attorney, pled guilty to his third strike because they knew that when the jury sees this, what are we even doing? Why are we even trying this? This guy's got nothing to lose. He's going to prison for 20 years to life back in the day when that still happened, right?
Yeah.
And they pled guilty to his third strike because the attorney looked at it going, well, I don't know, tell you, my friend, you're done. You're soaked. Yeah. There's no way I can get you out of this.
Yep.
Those things pile up over time, and over time, those become expectations. They become expectations of supervision, of department leadership, of the DA's office, of ourselves. We would have this thing by the time, towards the end of times that it was optional. to record. People would come back and they'd talk about this really cool call they worked, and we would look at them going, "Hey man, did you get it on tape?" And like, "Nah, man, we didn't roll the tape." I'm like, I just turn and walk away going, "Hey man, if it's not on tape, it didn't happen. I don't want to hear your big fish story." You know what I mean?
Well, I've heard you say that a million times.
Yeah. Well, geez, imagine that. But it's the truth. It's the truth. And so that was, these were pressures that, pressure makes diamonds, guys. Okay. Pressure's not easy to deal with sometimes, and it's not comfortable, but if it's handled properly, you can refine your techniques in a way that you're going to make diamonds. And we made a lot of diamonds because we worked so hard at it.
So the recordings are starting. You're starting to record things. You're using them for training and to look at yourselves and to share, but you're also starting to get some feedback. And this continues to evolve where you're recording more and more. Was there any resistance from anyone, leadership, street cops within the unit, that you had to deal with? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Well, I'll tell you, from an external standpoint, there was very little resistance. Most cops understood that, hey, we're doing this. This is coming on orders. Hey, if it was up to us, we wouldn't do this. Wrong. We would do it in a second. So that wasn't too tough. Internally, there was a lot of resistance. The pilots and TFOs did not want to be put in a situation where they had to record.
Okay.
And part of that would be, especially in the day, there were definitely times that this whole thing started off on the FLIR or the camera, but at some point in time, and for very good reason, we abandoned that completely and it just let it roll. It would start flopping around like a dead fish because what we're doing right now is outside the window. A good case in point would be, say you were in a vehicle pursuit that turns into a foot pursuit. I'm here to tell you right now, especially with the old gear, you have to really be on your game, both of you together, to work this foot pursuit and stay on the camera and have confidence that you can continue to call this and you're not going to lose the bad guy and you're going to maintain safety, situational awareness. This is maybe one of the hardest things that you'll ever do in the air support unit. And so early on, it was an expected thing that the minute this guy bails, boom, drop that camera. I mean, even Kevin was like, he's out the window looking at this guy. But there's turned out to be some not resistance, but some pressure from command. Like, hey, what happened? You guys had this and you guys were on this pursuit. And all of a sudden, now there's some allegations about what happened at the end of the foot pursuit. And now you don't have that on tape. It's like, well, listen, feel free. You come up and give it a try. If you think you can do it, let us know, because we're really good at this and we can't do it. Over time, we certainly developed and got into a situation where we could make that happen. But again, when it comes to resistance, Jack, you and your brothers to the north exerted an enormous amount of resistance on us because you were completely allergic to the idea of doing this. And you were relatively vocal about it.
Yes.
And that type of thing would make its way back to us, those of us in the unit that wanted to do it. And frequently, you are here in Southern California, and whether you like it or not, whether you're a fan of them or not, your big brothers are guys that wear blue uniforms and call themselves LAPD. And people look at them all the time, but what do they do? What do they do? What do they do? What do they do? It's like, oh my God, what do they do? I don't know. They fly around with cameras better than ours and they have them turned off. Why are we asking what they do? It doesn't matter what they do. And I, by then, was actually teaching now for ALEA, and I would go and teach pursuit classes, and I would have people come up to me and mix no bones about it. I think what you're doing is completely unsafe. There's no way whatsoever as a pilot you should be even remotely involved in this pursuit. I don't know what to say. I had that happened to me dozens and dozens of times, but you got to be strong enough to take it, because the other half of the people are coming up going, man, you guys rock at this,
Let's talk about that for a second, because what you said is absolutely true. I was one of the resistors because I know how my department was.
Mm-hmm.
They will burn you for having the wrong tone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was ridiculous. But those days are gone. I mean, you're on body-worn cameras.
Right.
You're on in-car cameras. There's cell phones with cameras. There's cameras on every street corner. It's like, why are they not recording everything just for the evidentiary value to save officers? Now, was that true back when I was there too? Sure it was, but the resistance wasn't because of learning it or any of that. It was because of the way our department operated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not kidding you. There are coppers that get on their body-worn cameras that get audited routinely for just a routine audit, and they get in trouble for their tone, or you shouldn't have said that, or minor nonsense. And we knew that. We've always known it. We said, imagine what they'll do with a video from the air where we see everything. Plus, we would say, much of our work was in South Central, at or below 900, whether you like it or not. We're not, and now they're kicked out of there. But back in the day, it was at or below 900. It's easier to look out the window than it is to operate a camera at 600 feet. There was a lot of reasons, but I agree with you that it did influence things because of the reputation of the department,
Sure.
But it wasn't always for the same reasons people thought, but it's a great point. And again, guilty as charged. We've had this conversation a gazillion times.
Well, we used to love up, and this was the fun thing about having this debate with you at least once a year at an ALEA conference.
Yeah.
I knew that you did not. I knew that you knew what we were doing was the right thing,
Oh, sure.
but you really couldn't say all the words. I do believe that one evening, and I'm pretty sure it was in New Orleans, you had enough. I think we were drinking Crown and 7, and your brain slipped just enough to actually say what was on your mind. I'm like, oh, there you go. Okay, I'm going to holster up over this for the rest of my life with him because he pretty much confessed to what I thought, and that's all I needed to hear one time, and I let you go on that. Yeah.
Well, on this topic, I remember being in the back seat with you and Kevin one time flying, and we went to a pursuit termination where the bad guys run down into a pitch black canyon.
Mm-hmm.
You remember this, I'll bet.
I do.
Pitch black canyon, and there's at least 2 of them, maybe 3, and they split up at one point, and one runs this way and one runs that way, tucks in. I'm just looking out the window. And you guys are working the camera and doing all this and directing units in to contain. And long story short, in the end, we capture a guy on a hillside that the FLIR is on. One of the guys is left the view of the camera, but I was trying to watch him. I said, hey, come back this way. Last I saw him, he was right at that corner of that fence. Get on the FLIR. I think it was Kevin. I think you were flying, Todd. And Kevin gets on the camera, and he finds the guy within 20 yards to that corner. Everybody's in custody. And you guys were like, yeah. And we got back and said, and you looked at me and said, well, what do you think? Mm-hmm. I said, okay, a couple things. Number one, if I was working this without the camera, just working it on the night sun, chances are I wouldn't have found them running down in that canyon. It would have been luck to find them with the night sun running in that pitch black canyon. You found him easily on infrared. That's number one. Number two, when they split up, if I'm looking out the window, I'm going to be able to keep an eye on both these guys a little bit longer than you were able to because the camera has limited abilities there. And then number three was, I would have had that guy on the hillside in custody 15 minutes faster than you for one reason. I would have put my light, you were trying to explain where he was. It was very challenging. Mm-hmm. I remember this so vividly. There was the ice. What's the iced tea company? It was their
Snapple?
trucks.
Snapple, right? Yeah,
guys, coming eastbound behind Snapple, and units were blowing by Snapple. They just weren't listening to what you were saying, and I said I would have had him in custody 15 minutes sooner. And I remember Kevin going, "How so?" I would have put my light on him and said, he's under my light. And you guys laughed. Yeah. But that was our banter back and forth for years, where I was of the belief that you guys were doing it right. We weren't doing anything wrong. We should have been more like you. And in some cases, maybe you guys should have been more like us in like that example. But you were way ahead of your time. Again, I think I have pretty good foresight and common sense, and I had to get it sold to me over the years, and I'm sold. I think LA should be recording every minute of every flight for their own benefit, for training, for evidence, for these idiots that are constantly saying the officers did this and this and this, and none of it's true. And we can prove it with video. I mean, the body cameras only show so much. Body cameras are crap. I think it's almost, sometimes body cameras get in the way. They just don't really show the big picture. But aviation videos, that's different. You get the wider view of the whole situation, and you can zoom, and the value is there. So
The one thing that I will say, and as again, I had zero experience personally with body worn cameras. They were obviously on the scene, but I was already up in air support, and there was actually some talk at one point in time of like maybe we should be wearing those too. I'm like, all right, you got to be kidding
Oh
me!
my
Why would we do
gosh.
that? I'm like, what the heck? Every word I say is already recorded.
Yeah.
It's like a big deal. But I will say this: it's I think where the body worn camera, if it has its use when there's already an air unit overhead, is what you see in that God's eye view of this is not what that officer saw. And
That's
it's
right.
not only is it not what the driver officer saw, it's not what the passenger officer saw. They didn't see what the other guy saw. And this is the closest you're going to get. That body worn camera is the closest you're going to get to experiencing what that officer experienced. And if you're going to, and so when I think back to the early days of recording, well, I think it was certainly better than nothing for sure. Repeatedly, almost always, it did not. Despite how it was used, it did not portray what that officer experienced. And if there was an incident of an officer involved or shooting or something like that, and you think you're a DA or a civil attorney someplace, if you think that you know what this officer, how he reached the decision he reached by watching our video from the helicopter, you're so mistaken.
Yeah.
It was nothing like that for him. And so I think that's the type of thing that needs shepherding through the system,
Yeah. And having both is, I think that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
That body worn camera, yes, you can hear the voices of both the bad guy and the officer. You can kind of see what's going on. And when you're up at
Right.
with your gun pointed, you can't see anything,
Thank you to our sponsors, MD Helicopters. MD Helicopters is a leading light helicopter manufacturer for civil and military operators worldwide. We build safe, agile, hard-working light helicopters that consistently deliver reliable performance. As a result, our operators enjoy superior confidence, backed by durability that enables more uptime.
And you can literally feel the stress of it.
Yes.
I tell you, man,
Yes.
I find myself through social media, at least at one point in time, shortly after I retired, I would watch a lot of body worn camera video, usually of an OIS that was released by whatever department, including my own department. And my goodness gracious, I would end up being so stressed out from watching that over time I realized, man, unless you really need to, how about you don't do that in the morning when you drink a coffee? Because it would, I owned it so much. I cared so much, and I still would to this day, but basically I try not to allow myself to watch them. It is a horrific incident. I don't care who lives and who dies through this. It's horrific. And the officer did not want this to happen. Nobody wanted this to happen, but it is a mess. Yeah. And I feel that mess. I feel the dread of this situation, and that doesn't absolutely never once ever that I can think of did that ever come through in a video shot from our helicopter.
I understand. Yeah. But having that overview combined with
absolutely
body worn,
right.
It's pretty cool. And you could see, for instance, he hit me with his car. Let's go to the tape, shall we?
Sure, absolutely.
And it's absolutely 100% fabricated. There's fabricated stories by bad guys every single day in this country, hundreds of times probably.
Give me 2 seconds to tell you another, you were talking about recording stories. This involved me, and I want to think that this night Blair was my pilot, and we went out and we got a call it was a call, man with a gun. And I think it was a domestic situation where this guy's supposed to be out in the car and the girlfriend says he's got a gun. We were the first unit on scene, and as the units are starting to get close, he kind of, I don't know, he has some sixth sense that he's about ready to get popped. So he gets out of the car and he makes his way, the multi-story apartment complexes that are only a walkway apart, they're just tough, right? He makes his way all the way into this alley, and Blair keeps me in a perfect position. I'm able to see him almost the entire time. No problem, no sweat. I couldn't have asked for anything better than what he did. And at some point in time, this guy goes down this alley, and then he's confronted by a black and white that's coming back up towards him. And he makes a little button hook, and he jukes me just a little tiny bit in this alley, and he makes a movement towards some trash bins, the ones that the trucks come pick up and throw, not a dumpster, like a personal trash bin. And he goes back behind these trash bins and he's kind of hanging out back there. And ultimately he leaves there and walks all the way back out to the front where his car is. We get units to him and they get him in custody, and he doesn't have a gun. And so everybody's like, hey, did you see him throw the gun anywhere? I'm like, nah, man, I didn't see anything. We look all over the place. Lots of times they chuck it up on the roof someplace. Yep. Those are usually relatively easy to find with the infrared. Nah, man, I couldn't find anything. We worked it and just, I'm sorry, man, we can't find it. And they did end up charging this guy because he's wanted for some type of domestic violence, assault with a deadly weapon type thing, but we don't have the gun. These are the days where we record everything and we do not re-record over that. So everything that air crew did on that day at some point in time is getting impounded, okay? A super high-end TFO that we had, Toby Terranova. He is their lead TFO trainer now. A pilot, great guy, super great guy. Toby comes in the next night, and what does Toby do? Because he's that kind of guy, he's looking through the ABLE logs, these incident logs that we wrote, and he sees this, and he goes and he pulls the tape, and he's watching this tape. He's learning. He's trying to learn how to do this job, and he watches this. And this guy, when he moves over there by that trash bin, the guy pauses there, and for just a minute, he can't really see it either, but he does see something that seems odd. It's just off. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I never saw it that night. I never played the tape back because I didn't feel a need to play the tape back. I didn't think that we missed anything. I just didn't say anything. And how you are, you're like, I don't even know if he had a gun to start with, maybe that's just how the girlfriend got somebody to get there quickly. I don't have any idea. Toby ends up going, hey, man, and he comes to me because I'm working nights that night. And he goes, hey, man, I don't want to front you off or anything. He goes, but do you mind? I have a buddy of mine that's working GST, our version of Metro. Do you have a buddy? I have a buddy of mine that's working GST tonight. I'm going to have him go back over and check out that trash bin. He goes, because he makes this move over here. We both watch it together. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, you do whatever. And I walk away thinking, well, you do you, brother, and I go do my stuff. His buddy goes out there, and there is the gun in the trash bin. Yep. Found 24 hours later by an air crew member that wasn't even on the flight that night.
Yep.
I don't know what to tell you. If you don't believe in this, you're missing the boat, my friends.
That might be the second time we've heard that story
did you
on
hear
this
the
podcast.
same story?
Yeah.
Okay.
And because it's fantastic.
It's a great
It's
story.
one of the greatest stories.
Who told it?
Matt, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Matt.
Okay.
I think it was.
It's such a valuable story. It's not just for training. It's for a fresh set of eyes. I think we talked about fresh set of eyes on anything.
Sure.
And he saw something that even you in rewinding and watching said, well, okay, I kind of see what you're talking about.
Right.
Well, he thought a little differently and was willing to make a call.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cool.
It's so cool.
Time is flying by, man. This is unbelievable. I keep looking at all this stuff I want to talk about, and it's like, how are we going to get to everything? So we're not going to get to everything. So we got to get to a couple things before we get to the tank.
Oh my goodness.
So before we get to the tank, let's talk about you, how you where you grew up, how you got into law enforcement, and then we're going to talk about your instructing days a little bit, and then the tank. So let's go back in time to Michigan and walk us through how you ended up as a San Diego cop.
I grew up in Flint, Michigan, and then as a teenager in high school, my parents moved out to a little town called Burton, Michigan, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but I had a job in high school working at a real commercial radio station, the real deal, and it was It was cool. I loved it. I wanted to be a broadcaster. That was my number one thing. I grew up as a little kid wanting to be Adam 12. You know,
Uh-huh.
those guys were my heroes. My mom, they were on the cover of TV Guide. My mom cut off the cover of the TV Guide, and I had it in a frame on my desk. Those guys were, I mean, they were my heroes.
Yeah.
When I was young, we didn't call them cops. We weren't allowed to call them cops. They were police officers. And so this is in the 60s and 70s, right? A lot of disrespect for police officers in those days. Not in my family, there wasn't.
Yeah.
And so I grew up absolutely idolizing cops. And I wanted to be a cop until at some point in time, I don't know when, I discovered this thing, AM radio, and I just thought it was amazing. And I just forget the cops. I wanted to be a radio announcer. And I got a job. And one of the jobs that I held at this radio station at one point in time was I worked in the news department there. Had press credentials and everything, and I thought, hey, the news director suggested, hey, why don't you, probably be a good thing if you made a little contact with some of the local cops and stuff like that. They'll even take you and you can go on a ride along. Like, a ride along? What is that? So one thing leads to another, and I make contact with my local hometown police department, and I go on a ride along with them, not because I necessarily want to, but because my boss thinks it's a good idea. And I get out there and I realize over the course of this shift, I'm riding with this sergeant that has, citywide responsibility. And he only has like 4 guys that are out there working for him. His name was Rick Johnson, Vietnam, a Marine Vietnam tracker, super way cool, very quiet guy. But I realized that I watched him all night long. Every time something would happen, we would start to drift in this direction because one of his guys put that he was on a traffic stop. We would all of a sudden start, half the time we never got to where we were going, but we were making our way there in case everything went south. And it was things like that. And I went on several of these ride-alongs, many of these ride-alongs. I got to know these guys really well, had several of them that were my idols. And over a relatively short amount of time, I'm like, I don't care about this broadcasting stuff at all. This is what I want to do. And but I was really quiet about it because, man, who wants to be a cop? Not in those days. And dude, you look at you, you're in high school and you already work at a radio station. Why would you possibly want to be a beat cop someplace? It's because I absolutely love this. So I'm going to try to fast forward a couple years after I got out of high school. They had one opening. They had one, it's a small 40-man police department. They had one opening and they had 200 applications for one opening. And they decided that they were going to do background investigations on 4 guys. They were going to hire one. And in those days, they were really big on lists. They're going to make a list. The list was going to be 1 through 4. And the first guy gets the first job. And then after that, as we need people and they're still available, we'll hire off that list. So I don't know how they sifted through the stuff, but I end up being one of the people that they're going to do background investigations on and make this list out of. And suffice to say, I was number 2 on the list. And on this little small town police department, I might as well have been number 200. Ben, there's not going to be a job for me. This is going to happen. This is cool. And I'm honored to be number 2, but I was the first loser, really, is what that boiled down to. But my background investigator was a young lady who had been a San Diego police officer. And she was born and raised in the Flint area. She moved to San Diego, became a police officer, and then ends up being divorced from her husband. And she has 2 relatively young kids, but no family support system. So she moves back there and she gets hired by the PD, but she's got big city police experience. So pretty early on, she makes her way through the system pretty good. She calls me up and we talk and she said, hey, listen, I want to tell you, I'm really sorry you didn't get the job. Obviously, I was your background investigator. I really think you're going to make a great cop someday. You're just got to keep your face down, keep your nose down, and keep working at it. She said, hey, listen, have you ever considered that maybe moving from this area? I mean, this area is pretty depressed. It's not easy to get a job here as a brand new cop with no previous experience. She said, if you ever thought you might want to live someplace else, I was a San Diego police officer and they're hiring all the time. And if you would like the idea of living someplace that doesn't snow and has palm trees, you might think this is pretty cool, And at the time, I'm 20 years old. I'm working as a paramedic in Detroit. And the San Diego PD wouldn't take your application until you were 20 and a half.
Yeah.
The day that I turned 20 and a half, I sent my application to the San Diego PD. Now, I sent my application to a lot of different places, but that was the one I had my eye on because of what good information I had gotten from her. And sure enough, I got called to do an out-of-town interview because LAPD was right there too. And I wanted to be an LAPD officer so bad. I would have forsaken everything I knew in the world to go do that. But they were not hiring out-of-town applicants at the time. It costs money to do that. It's a different type of background package process, and they were doing it. So I ended up in San Diego. I went through the process. I got hired. Touchdown. It worked.
Wow.
My girlfriend at the time, I basically was madly in love with her, but I have a job as a cop, man. I'm leaving. I hope you come with me, but I don't have time to marry you. I got to go. See you later. Bye. And so I did. And she followed me out here. She was about a month behind me. She was just finishing up her degree at the University of Michigan. She followed me out here, and we got married a couple of years later. San Diego PD, I mean, the rest is kind of history, you know?
Yeah.
Air support unit was an
great
interesting. Air support unit was an interesting thing. I wanted to be a canine handler, and I wanted to be a homicide detective.
Wow.
And our canine unit was brand new, and homicide, of course, was the pinnacle of our department in those days.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work canine until I'm tired of working patrol. Then I'm going to make detective, and I'm going to climb that ladder because you didn't get to homicide unless you've done every other job in investigations. They were the best of the best. And who doesn't want to be the best at whatever they do, right?
Yeah.
And when I was a brand new patrol guy, Able Air Support was brand new. They had just seized these two broken down Jet Rangers from a drug dealer, and they were in the process of putting them together, getting them spiffed up. By now, they had started to fly them on a really, really limited budget. And they thought, very wisely so, that the best way to get people to think air support is bring patrol officers up and put them in the helicopter and show them what we can do, which when I look back was pretty damn limited. We have a big bright light and a radio that we can talk to anybody in the city. Other than that, I don't know, what can they do? But I'm like, hey man, free helicopter ride. I'll go on a free helicopter ride. Of course, I've always wanted to be in a helicopter, never done that before. I went out to the airport, made some arrangements, went out to the airport, and I remember this like it was yesterday. I get in the back of this 1974 Jet Ranger. And it smelled horrible back there. It was like, oh my God, and I don't know enough about jets and how oil leaks and so on. I'm thinking one of these guys needs a shower really bad, you know? And these two guys, both of them old enough to be my father, are out there, and they crank up that Jet Ranger. And of course, I hear that turbine whine that I've never, ever heard before. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And then we strap in and go, and we lift up to a 4-foot hover, and I can see all the blue taxi lights at Montgomery Field. I'm like, I literally said, I don't know what you have to do this, but this is what I'm going to do. I have no idea how to get here.
At the hover.
At the hover, 4 feet in the ground. We hadn't even taken off, man. Hadn't even taken off. I'm like, I've awesome. Never seen anything this. I didn't even know things this cool existed in the world. I want to do this so bad I can't see straight. And the next day, I woke up from being on that ride along. I went to the Yellow Pages because that's what we had in those days, kids.
What are Yellow Pages?
Yeah, I know. No kidding, right? I went to the Yellow Pages. I looked up flight schools. I made a list of a couple of flight schools, and I'm like, well, I don't know where I'm going to get the money for this, but I got to do this somehow. And at the time, I really believed I was going to end up, I'm like, these guys, there's only a few of them. They're all old enough to be my father. I'm never going to get a job here. So my plan was, I knew the LAPD had to have at the time, you had to have a commercial pilot's license to go there too. So I thought, well, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to get my private pilot's license. And then, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to apply because now they're taking out of town applicants. I had gotten a postcard. In fact, my mother forwarded this postcard to me. She goes, hey, you got a postcard from LAPD, says they're interested in interviewing you now. I'm like, they could care less. But I'm like, I'm going to start this process, right?
Yeah.
My goal is I'll get my private, and then I'll go up there and I'll get my instrument and my commercial while I'm trying to get enough seniority to get on. And I went on a ride along with Lou Peak.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I went on a ride along with Lou Peak. It was really cool.
He's a great pilot.
Yeah. And I remember I was so sick I couldn't see straight, man. I was like, in fact, Lou knew it. He said, we're taking a break because I'm going to fly all night with him. Yeah. And he goes, do you like Chinese food? I'm like, yeah, kind of. And he goes, well, the rice comes up really easy in case you have to.
I can hear him saying it.
He knew I was turning green back there, right?
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 160-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
But anyhow, I come back from that, and I'd never been to LA before, and I'm thinking, man, I came from Detroit. This is a dirty place, This is. I just thought it was gonna be like San Diego, only up north. I had no idea, right?
No, it's like a dump.
I am a LA groupie, but I didn't see it like this, right? I thought I didn't know better. I stayed at the Best Western in Hollywood. I'm thinking to myself, the Best Western in Hollywood. Dude, I swear to you, I slept that night in the room with my cig in my hand because I thought somebody was going to walk through that door and murder me right there on the spot. I'm telling you, right?
Jack, I was out working Vice that night.
I was really nervous about, or I really wanted that job. I was really into it. And that was the first, probably of many, but that was the first time that my wife literally said, hey, listen, brother, I followed you all the way out here. We have made a life here. Yeah. We like this. And if you think about the things that we really love about this place, they don't exist up there. And if you think about the things that we hate about this place, they're 10 times worse up there. So if you go, you're going by yourself.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
And
end of story,
there
huh?
You go.
Yeah. That's
what's funny hearing you tell this story is you're somebody who went to San Diego PD but wanted to be at LAPD. And Jack's somebody that wanted to be at San Diego PD and was at LAPD.
That's true.
It's those stairs, man. Those stairs will kill you, man.
Yep. Talk about those stairs regularly. I'll never forget that San Diego PD PT test, man.
There is never a time that I don't end up, if I'm anywhere in the ballpark, that campus is part of a, I want to say that it's called Black Mountain Junior College. Anyhow, I can't remember, but it's an open campus, right? Except for the actual classrooms of the police end of things. So you can go right over and look at those stairs, and they haven't changed not one minute. They'll be 5,000 years from now. They'll still be there, and somebody will come through and give tours like they did at the pyramids. But I will tell you, there's never a time that I don't go to those stairs, and most of the time I can't help myself. I get at the bottom and I take a selfie of myself with those stairs behind me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we did that so many times in the academy. And we were actually required, when I was a brand new cop, we had to come back and run that once a month. So,
wow.
Yeah. And with all your gear on too.
Yeah.
And so that obstacle course was something that, and I'm here to tell you, and it really made the point because like every month I went back, it was harder and harder harder to run that thing. I started thinking about that pizza
that was hard.
And the donuts.
That was a challenging PT course. LA's was much easier at the time, and now it's a no-brainer. It's so easy. It's ridiculous. But those stairs were intimidating.
For sure.
And I only had to do them one time.
Yeah, there you go.
For the actual test.
Right.
But that's funny. That is funny.
Let me relate another story to you.
Yeah.
This is the air support end of things. I ended up doing my private pilot license with a canine handler, Gary Rosink, on the police department. And Gary was in canine. He was trying to get on to air support at the time. He's looking to be as current in his aviation stuff as he possibly can. He has at least 2 young sons that were like baseball sons. He was the baseball coach and so on. And on top of all that, he and I are trying to train together, which was tough because, his schedule, he's working patrol, he's working canine, he's got court, he's got baseball, he's got all this other stuff. And it's like, man, I would get ready to go to a flight and he'd have to cancel it because the kids made this tournament. But in the end, he was quite a cheerleader for me. He did end up getting up to the unit. So he was an alternate pilot in the unit. I was down in the court officer's waiting room one day, and I'm waiting to go to court, and that they had these tables with all these magazines on them because you guys are killing time down there waiting for their case to be called. And I look, and there's a magazine there that's got a picture of Able, our helicopter, on the cover of the magazine. And it was some magazine called Airbeat Magazine. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what the heck is that, man? So I picked that thing up. I'm looking through it. I blast through that article in no time flat. And then when nobody's looking, I slide that into my suit pocket and I steal that thing out of there, right? And I kid you not. I'm not kidding you one little bit. I got a frame for that, and that was on the mantle in my condo. That was like the carrot that was dangling out in front of me, man. Stick
Wow.
with this and do this. Well, I wanted to send those to my family back in Michigan, my mom, my dad, a couple of my good friends. And so I look, I mean, again, there's no internet in those days. I look in the back of this and like, here's the publisher for Airbeat magazine. And so I call it's just basically the company that printed it. And I said, hey, listen, I'm San Diego PD. I'll be glad to pay for it however I can, but I need some extra copies of Airbeat magazine. Can I get like maybe 5 extra copies of it? And the guy says, oh man, you gotta be kidding me. He goes, dude, I just sent 100 copies to your agency. And I'm like, well, I mean, I work Southeast Patrol and yeah, it's not like they're floating around our agency. And he says, well, do you know a guy named Joe Ayala? He's the sergeant of the unit. He is the god that handpicks the next pilot to go in. He goes, just call him up. I just sent him 100 of them. I'm sure he'll give you a couple. So I hang up the phone and I'm like, oh, well, I'm not doing that. Absolutely not under any circumstances. And so, and then I don't know, there are things in your life that are like this, that are, there's like a pivotal moment in your life where you're like, I didn't do that. Somebody reached down, not of this world. And all of a sudden I pick up the phone and dial, because I have it memorized by heart. I dial the air support number, and whoever answers the phone, I said, yeah, may I speak with Sergeant Ayala? You go, yeah, hang on just a second. And I'm sitting there going, what are you doing, you idiot? You know? And he comes on the phone. I'm like, hey, Sarge, this is Todd Jager from Southeast Patrol. Yeah, hey, Todd, what's up? I said, hey, listen, I was calling to find out if you have any spare copies of Airbeat magazine, of the issue that the unit's on the cover of it. And he's like, yes. I said, well, I just talked to the publisher and he said that you had a couple spare copies, and I was wondering if I could get a couple of them. And he says to me, he goes, yeah, we can do that. He goes, but why do you want these? And now I feel like a little kid with his pants pulled down, right in the middle of traffic someplace. I am so embarrassed right now. And I literally say very sheepishly, I'm like, I remember this. There's like hesitation in my voice. I'm like, well, Sarge, I really want to come to the unit someday. I'm working on my ratings right now. All of my family lives back in Michigan, and I'd like to send them copies of this. And he said, yeah, we can do that. He said, what are you doing? What shift are you on right now? I said, I'm on graveyard. He said, do you work tonight? I said, yeah, I do. He goes, be in my office at 8:00 tomorrow morning. I'm like, okay. So I hang up the phone. I swear to God, like 3 minutes later, my phone rings and it's Gary Rosink, my flight instructor. And he goes, and he's jumping. He's almost angry. He's like, what the hell did you just say to Joe Ayala? And I said, I just asked him for a couple copies of a magazine. And he said, so you're coming up here tomorrow morning? And again, he's being kind of rough with me. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, that's going to be your interview for the unit. Don't screw it up. And he practically hangs up on me.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh man. So the next day I go up there, and I had no idea that was my interview for the unit. And believe it or not, you fast forward all the way through everything. I never got the copies of the magazine. They never came. It never kept them on my mind, never kept them on his mind. I don't think we ever even talked about it at all. But, Joe's asking me, at the time I had 2 years on the department. He's like, so Todd, what's your plan? How are you going to get up here? Where are you at? And I said, well, I'm just about ready to take my private pilot check ride, but I have to get my instrument and my commercial. And I figure I've got 2 years to do that before I'm even qualified to put my application in. And Joe was a Marine Corps Cobra pilot from Vietnam. His glasses were always like permanently tweaked on his head, right? And Joe has got these permanently tweaked glasses, and he looks down over his glasses at me and he says, Todd, if the right person had his commercial pilot's license, we wouldn't care how much time he has on.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay. I left there. I drove to the credit union. I didn't have enough money. I can't afford this.
Yeah.
I went to the credit union. I got a signature loan for $15,000 cash money, and they gave me a checkbook, and I just started flying nonstop every day. I would fly graveyard. I would go rent an airplane. I would fly round trip to Phoenix, come back, take a nap, go back to work. I was just doing whatever it took to whack that out and get that done. And at the same time, working for Joe. I mean, Joe wanted me to have a pager. I went and got a pager. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, He'd paid you. If he had anything that he thought he could possibly use you on, he was impressed with how much he could give you short notice and have you change everything in your life and make it happen. He did not care what you had planned. It does not matter to him. I need you for this. The night that the Rodney King riots set off, the first night of true rioting, I was working second watch at the time, and you could tell, you could already watch it on CNN. Stuff's going off. This is going to be bad. And Joe calls me up on the phone and he says, "Hey, listen, man, I'm thinking, I don't know what's going to happen tonight, but I think it would be a good idea for us to have an extra set of eyes in the helicopter. What do you think about, can you call your command and see if they'll release you for the night? You come up and fly with us all night, just sit in the back seat, you just extra set of eyeballs." And I'm like, sure, of course. And so I did. I was released and went. And then my entire squad comes in, and they all get up and they drive to LA to Dodger Stadium.
Oh.
And here I am tooling around in Naples. We actually didn't do anything too crazy that night. But that being said, I'm like, man, that would have been pretty cool experience, But those are the types of things.
You would have just been sitting
I
around
would have been
Dodger
standing
Stadium
around
parking
there.
lot.
But man, some of the stories I heard about being in that parking lot that night, I was like, wow, really? That really happened? And like, yeah, it really happened. And one of the more interesting things from a law enforcement standpoint too, they're driving northbound I-5 and it's still, light outside. And they said, as they start to drive up, you can see all this smoke curling up. It kind of looked like, some type of war zone. And the guy has told me, he goes, "Yeah, man, we were all kinds of bravado, talking crap and stuff, smack in the car. The closer and closer we got to Dodger Stadium, nobody said anything in this car. Like, hey, this isn't a joke, man. This isn't like some big fish story to tell people. We're about ready to go on scene on some crazy stuff." And when LAPD is calling, saying, "Hey, San Diego, if you're not doing anything, can you come up and help us?" You're like, "Oh, this has got to be bad."
That smoke, that was like the biggest wildfire smoke you've ever seen, but it was in a city.
Yeah.
It was bizarre.
And it was
a layer.
Acridly black.
I bet it went all the way to, well, I'm sure it went over Ontario, John. I mean, it was just so much smoke.
What year was that, Jack?
92.
92.
Right?
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, 92.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we've got to get to something here.
Okay, go for it.
Because we promised
the
world. We promised the world, John, that we would have Todd on.
Before we get into what I think we're going to get into, I just want to talk about.
What do you think that is, John? What do you think we're about to get into?
But San Diego is renowned for being involved in the weirdest incidents. And I remember going through the academy, and there was a section of the academy, I don't remember which section it was, but talk about responding to unusual incidents. And there was the McDonald's incident in San Ysidro. There was this particular incident we're going to talk about, and there was a handful of other ones. And it's just always odd to me that San Diego happens to be one of the most beautiful places in the world in a lot of ways. Take it to Southeast San Diego and some other divisions that Mid-City maybe isn't the best either, but has this weird number of unusual incidents that takes place. I don't know what it is about where San Diego sits in time and place in the world, but there's some black cloud that occasionally pops over San Diego. And Todd happened to be underneath the black cloud this particular day. I'll hand it back to you, Jack. I just think it's so weird to talk about how San Diego's unusual and that it gets these types of incidents.
Yeah. Well, maybe Todd will have some insight on that. But for our listeners, we got to get into the tank pursuit. And if you have not seen that, it's a miracle. But it's on YouTube. You can watch it. Multiple videos about it, and it's very unique and very unusual. But now we have the TFO that was over it and that filmed it, and it's fascinating to hear the backstories. Todd and I've talked about this many times, and every time, even as recently as the other day, I learned something new about that incident with personnel that were on the ground, and all that stuff. Give it to us, Todd, from how it started, how you got involved, and the backstories behind it, and the outcome.
Well, I'll give you real quick my first disclaimer, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I don't remember the last time I watched that video. I haven't watched the video, not because it's a bad memory or anything like that, but honestly, I don't think we did very well on it. In fact, it's not that. We did horribly at that. As an air crew, we were horrible. the one thing that we did, literally the one and only good thing that we did, we videotaped it.
Yep.
And that was the beginning. That was the genesis of, this is no joke. This can change the trajectory of people's lives and the trajectory of the department's stature and respectability. So that being said, I'll back up. Okay. That's if you turn this podcast off and go to look for that, don't think that I'm saying, oh man, this is how you do this. This is absolutely almost everything I did. Don't do it. Don't do what I did. Okay. Except do your best to record. And that was with an old FLIR FV 2000 video. And we were super low, ridiculously stupid low. But that being said, I was a new pilot in command, and I was going through night pilot in command training with our senior pilot, a guy named Ed Surgott. And Ed didn't want anything to do ever with sitting in the left seat of that aircraft, ever, never, under any circumstances. So when you did night training with him and you were certain times of the year that it's not dark out yet, you're not going to be flying. He's going to be flying because he doesn't want to be the TFO or the TAC pilot, we called him in the day. And so we had just flown one day watch flight at the beginning of our night shift, daylight flight, and we were eating dinner or getting ready to eat dinner. We were on our break. In those days, we flew 2.5 hour flights a day if we were completely on our own. And so during that time, we get a call down near UCSD Hospital at Washington and 163 for a 10851 bailout, a vehicle pursuit where somebody bailed out from that. And they want us to come check the surrounding area on the freeway. So we get down there and we're orbiting and looking around, not using the FLIR. We're just looking out the window in the ice plant to see if I can see somebody laying there someplace. And I hear, in those days, we could only listen to two frequencies at once. We could listen to the frequency that we were over. We had two radios. One radio was a regular VHF radio that was the same radio that was in the police cars, because all we had was VHF in those days. Another radio was called a Converticom, and you took a regular these giant brick radios, and you would click it down inside there. And when you did that, then it went on to aircraft power and aircraft antennas. But that was your TX unit. That was your transmit receive unit, was actually that handy-talkie, as silly as it might sound. But the cool thing about that is you could get on scene someplace, pop that right out of the thing. Now you're walking around and you have a walkie-talkie, So what we did was whatever frequency that we were working, that we were over, that was what was on the main radio. The handy-talkie behind us is what we had all of the other PD frequencies in there, which is not amazing. There weren't very many of them. And you knew them by heart. So if you knew that you needed to go to, say you had to go to Central Division for a call, or you wanted to listen to Central Division, you would reach back, you'd roll the dial all the way one side, and you're on 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you know you're on Central Division because they were frequency 4. And so long before any 800 megahertz stuff. So we had a policy, or our practice was that we would, whatever division we were over, that's what's number one on the radio. And then whatever our next closest division was, that's what would be the backup. Because in theory, if those guys started squealing for help, we were the closest to them. Anything else is going to have to come from dispatch. Hey, Able, switch to Northern Division. Hey, Able, they need you in Southern Division, because I can't listen to more than two frequencies. I had no ability to scan. So I have it, our radio is on Western Division, because that's where this call is happening with the bailout. And then other frequency, Eastern Division, is the next closest division to us at the time. And I hear, while we're working this call, I'm hearing all of this crazy commotion is happening on this other frequency. And I'm like, what is going on here? I mean, this is like, it's off the rails. And I tell my partner, I said, hey man, head for Linda Vista. And he's like, what? I mean, what could possibly, we were here on this? I said, dude, they say they're chasing a tank.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thank you to our sponsors, MD Helicopters, MD Helicopters is a leading light helicopter manufacturer for civil and military operators worldwide. We build safe, agile, hard-working light helicopters that consistently deliver reliable performance. As a result, our operators enjoy superior confidence, backed by durability that enables more uptime.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 160-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Thank you to our sponsor, CNC Technologies. CNC Technologies, serving law enforcement, government, and military markets with tailored mission solutions, system training, and live 24/7 support with CNC.live platform. Explore more at cnctechnologies.com.